Good afternoon. I'm in bright sunshine. I'm going to celebrate because it is Monday, January 16th. And here in Southern California, oh my gosh, it feels like we've been living in Seattle or Portland with all the rain. So I apologize for the sun on the side, but actually I'm really enjoying it. A little later than normal. However, it was important for us to go and check in on my mother-in-law, who is in her 90s, and we wanted to make sure she was safe and sound and no issues with her home because of all the rain that we've had. So let's get right to this. Because it's Monday, we are going to have a look and see what's going on in the real estate market. And I'm just pulling that up right now. And last week, what I mentioned is that this week we would do a quick national update, and then we would jump into our more of a local flavor. So just a quick introduction. I'm Jennifer Tim. I am the owner of the Welcome Home Global Group, powered by Keller Williams. So honored to hang my shingle with the biggest real estate brokerage in the world. So let's jump right in. And I see I didn't update this. So it should say January the 16th. I apologize for that. You can tell it's been one of those days where we've been trying to balance enjoying a very, very important holiday with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day and getting a little bit of work done. So perspective is everything. So we're going to have a look and just see kind of what's in our national news first. Definitely some good news that we've had. I'm trying to move that out of the way. And that's that our mortgage rates are starting to come down. Based on what we're seeing, this is what the experts out there with their amazing crystal balls are telling us. A dip below 6% has become a distinct possibility. Now, remember, in October last year, we were over 7%, and we're slowly coming down. So this is National Association of Realtors Chief Economist Lawrence Yun, who stated that. And because inflation's been dropping over the past 6 months, we're starting to see that that is resulting in the mortgage rates coming down. And I like this. So this really helps us translate that into what is super important. So after several weeks of seeing those dropping mortgage rates, this is really helping buyers get a little more confidence about jumping into their home buying experience. And it's because it's all about affordability. So as Mr. Yun puts in here, with a 6% rate instead of 7%, buyers pay about $2,700 less every year on their mortgage. So it's definitely all about that affordability. The rates down at the bottom are where we ended up the end of last week. And so these are Freddie Mac rates. And then when we get to our local forecast, then I will show you what our local lenders are offering. So 30-year fixed rate mortgage averaging 6.33%, which is a drop from the previous week of 6.48. A year ago, the rate averaged 3.5%. Now that is the biggest challenge because people are thinking about those rates. And for those of us who had an opportunity to take advantage of them, to purchase during that time period or to refinance, those are not rates that we're going to see again. Our national average over the past 40 years has been 7% for interest rates. The fact that we're now talking about going below 6% again is cause for celebration, and hopefully buyers are going to get more confidence and come back into the market because this is where we need to be. Just a couple of other notes. So the consumer price index fell. So that's also what's helping everything feel a little better out there in the financial world. The MBS Highway Housing Survey for January 2023 showed the first early signs of improving buyer activity. While activity levels remain subdued nationwide, a smaller percent of loan officers, the LOs, and agents responded that things were slow or very slow, which is better than dead, which is what we were starting to see at the end of last year. So slow or very slow may not sound positive, but it truly is. And then along the same lines, Fannie Mae's home purchase sentiment index rose from a record low levels for the second month in a row. Though only 21% of respondents said it was a good time to buy, lower mortgage rates and home prices are helping people perk up. And then the other piece of good news, the US economy created 223,000 jobs in December, about twice what economists expected. The unemployment rate is at a historic low, 3.5%, right back where it was pre-pandemic. So lots of positivity in the market. And the biggest news of all is the trend that we're starting to see, that those interest rates are coming down. When they come down, and there are a lot of folks out there, excuse me, who are saying when it gets below the 6%, that's when they truly feel that buyers are going to be a lot more engaged and the demand is going to go up a lot higher. Now, one of the things that we do need to keep in mind, and I had the slide in last week, all of the drivers of pre-pandemic demand are still present. Excuse me, we have more than a decade of underbuilding. So before the pandemic arrived, we were dealing with insufficient numbers of homes on the market. It's all about the inventory levels. There were certain measures that were taken at that point in time, and we'll have a look at some of those graphs when we look a little more closer in Orange County. So inventory levels trending lower year after year. So dwindling inventory, increasing demand. And part of that is because, excuse me, I'm just going to have a quick sip of my afternoon tea. A surge in demand from millennials who are reaching home buying age, and they are the largest pool of potential home buyers that we have ever had. So sellers, this is good news to know that those buyers are there and they want your property, and the fact that interest rates are starting to come down. So sellers, it means that the buyer pool is going to be there for you when you're ready to sell your home. Buyers, until we have more inventory, it is still going to be challenging for you, and there aren't going to be enough homes for everyone in the market. So let's spend a little more time this afternoon having a look at Southern California and where we are. And of course, I always like to start off with just a snapshot of what some of our local lenders are offering. So these are current mortgage rates for Orange County, and this was as of the 6th of January. So I don't have the most recent ones, but this was Wells Fargo. And it just shows you where those interest rates could potentially be and the importance of shopping around for your loan officer or your loan expert. So jumbo 30-year fixed, they are offering a 5.5%. And again, we're starting to see all of these come down. I haven't received an update recently. And then this is another one of our lenders. So rather than the big bank from previously, this is a private mortgage company. Their 30-year fix is sitting at 5.75%, but this one is for 0 points. And it depends on whether you're conforming or not. If it's conforming, then you're sitting at 5.5%. So we already seeing that our local lenders can offer you some great opportunities. And yes, you may be purchasing a point to get that, but over the life of the loan, these are great rates that we're seeing. And of course, if you're looking at an adjustable rate mortgage, you've got even better options, or even your 15-year fix. So good news. This really should encourage buyers at least to go back to your loan officer and have the conversation about what the rate could look like for you. Or if you are a buyer thinking of getting into the home buying market and you haven't met or you haven't found the right loan officer, please reach out. We will introduce you to a selection. We will never force anybody to use one over the other lender, because every lender has different products and you need to find the right one that works for you. But we'd be honored to set up that introduction. I'm now going to go through a couple of slides. These are supplied by Stephen Thomas. He is a local economist. He owns Reports on Housing. And this was the housing report that came out last week. His forecast for 2023, and it was all about, and I love this picture on the front, of the sluggish intro to 2023. So we're going to have a look at some of the charts. We're still gaining momentum, and a lot of this is still really, really relevant because we're really off to a slow start. So this is a good way to just sort of look at this. So we'll spend a little bit of time here. Right at the top left-hand corner, starting out 2023, our active listing inventory is sitting at 2,530. Now, we did not have a normal market in 2021 or 22. So if we go back to pre-pandemic, we're going to go back to 2019. So if you just compare that dark blue to the light blue of 2023, you're going to see that we started out in 2019 at 5,911 properties on the market. Demand is the number of properties that have gone into escrow. And likewise, our demand is lower, a lot lower than the pre-pandemic levels. And then our expected market time. And in 2019, it was an expected market time of 152 days. And you can see kind of what happened at the beginning of 2022. If you look at that, we were at 25 days, insanely hot seller's market. And now we're closer to, we're around about that 84 days. And then the mortgage rates. So this tells a story as well. So in 2019, the feds had already started steps in place to kind of slow down things, to try and increase and address the lack of inventory by increasing those interest rates. So you can see they were sitting at 4.51% at the beginning of 2019. Following along that line, you can see 2020, we started at 3.72%, 2021, 2.65%, 2022, 3.22%, and then now going into January of 2023, this is a mortgage rate that he pulled on that particular day, 6.14%. So again, you know, we're kind of returning back to where we were pre-pandemic. And I think we're seeing that a lot in the economy and all sorts of different sectors where we're at least trying to get back to what we felt was expected then, and then trying to figure it out from there. But really important to understand that we have started out this year with much lower inventory. The market is slower and the demand has decreased. A lot to do with the fact that, number one, we have higher interest rates. So let's take this conversation further. This particular graph is our active listing inventory, and this is a great perspective over time, which is why I included. So if you look down at the bottom, it's got 6/17/2004. If you look at your immediate, all the way down on the left-hand side, and we go all the way along up until 10/17/2022, and it shows you the active inventory. Now, this one is really important because if we look at 2008, then you're going to see that our inventory levels were a lot higher. That's a huge difference to where we are now. So for those who are thinking that this market is going to come crashing down, number one, here's your very first indicator of why this is not the same as 2008. We do not have a lot of inventory that's sitting on the market. While we do have that decreased demand, more importantly, we have significantly decreased inventory. So keep that in mind as we go through, but we are not going to see a massive crash because there is enough demand, and actually demand is outstripping our supply of new listings right now. So taking that into a little closer snapshot. So this one, the purple right up here, is our 2019 listings. And then we've got our 2020 listings in green, our 2021 in red, and our 2022 listings in orange. And here we're starting with our little blue line that's just started out in January 2023. And what are we seeing? Active listing inventory year over year is so far down. Now, this dip that we see at the end of every year, this is kind of where we've been. That's the holiday market. Now we're coming around to the beginning of the year. And this is where we're going to have to see what happens. With lower interest rates, the buyer demand will keep increasing. Our hope and desire is that that will then encourage sellers who have been looking at the low interest rates that they've got on their current mortgage, looking at where we were in October with 7% and saying, forget it, why would I sell? Because I'm not going to take on a mortgage with a much higher interest rate, which we can all understand. But hopefully with these interest rates coming down, more sellers will be willing to make the move, because of course, when they sell and take out a new loan, they don't get to keep their amazing interest rates that were the gift from the gods, lowest ever, probably never ever going to see again unless there's some horrendous global pandemic or situation, which hopefully we never have to experience again. So this is where we're sitting. This is the reality, that our inventory levels are super, super low, and we need them to climb. So we will be very closely monitoring. We should see that increase with the decrease in interest rates. And because we're now going into a spring market, we should see inventory climbing. The extent to which it climbs will really determine what happens with our real estate market in the rest of, where are we, 2023. And here's just that conversation again around the 2013 versus 2022, our active listing inventory and interest rates. So when interest rates shoot up, then that's when we see that inventory going down, because it's sellers who don't want to sell and then end up having to pay a higher mortgage for the next property. When interest rates go down, then we see the inventory rising. So we will definitely be waiting with bated breath to see what happens in as the months progress. So Orange County demand year over year. Again, this is prior 30 days pending snapshot. So those properties where an offer was accepted and they're going through escrow. You can see that our demand is the lowest that it's been definitely for the past 4 years. And, if we take that 2019 as the snapshot of what was happening, that's where it was. So 2019 pending sales started out right over here. So we are lower. This green was when we went into isolation and the whole world basically stopped functioning as we knew it. So that green is that very unusual, but looking at these trend lines, we should see an increase in demand, and definitely that'll be influenced by where those interest rates end up, which is starting to look very positive for our buyers. And there we have that as an explanation as well, is when you have a look and we compare 2022 to our 2013, when there were fluctuations with the interest rates, we see that. We start seeing that as the interest rates come down, then we start seeing an increase in demand because it's affordability. More buyers can afford to get into the home buying market. Expected market time. Again, this is a great perspective when we look over time, and this graph starts in June of 2004, and then it's basically June and then October, and then it starts the next year. But you can see in 2007, 2008, because we had so much inventory on the market, we had so many choices for buyers, and we were in, we had, just all that craziness going on. That is when we ended up in a buyer's market. We are sitting over here right now. So this was actually this data point here. So that's October 17th of 2022. You can see how far suppressed we are. And below kind of where that sort of average line is. So we are still seeing in many of our markets, a seller's market, again, produced because we don't have enough homes on the market. So when there's less inventory, then there is demand. And again, in some markets, that demand is currently outstripping the inventory that's there, or outstripping any attempt for new listings coming on to address that. So we are still in a seller's market in many, many of our markets. Expected market time year over year. Again, this is just that great indication. Thank goodness we have escaped, hopefully, from this insane market that we saw in 2021 and in 2022. And that was created because we had such low interest rates. Everybody was basically trying to get into a property somewhere along the line. So a combination of home buyers, institutional buyers, you name it. This is not related to the loans or anything, but it truly was just created that demand for everything. And then the scarcity of not having enough inventory for the demand, that was what created the, get 60 offers on your house before the for sale sign went into the yard. Thank goodness we've got away from that. That was not sustainable at all. It is a much better market when we can get closer to a balanced market. And we are sitting at this point, as we say, around about 84 days currently for a property. From the minute that it goes, the marketing starts on that property until an accepted offer is about 84 days. A lot calmer, a lot more serious buyers. You're not going to have 20 buyers over a weekend throwing offers at multiple properties just to see which one sticks. This is a much better environment for both buyers and sellers when you have more of a serious buyer and a more of a serious seller. Closed sales. So this really emphasizes for us that the sales are still happening, that buyers are still there, and we are still closing deals. So again, if we go, this one goes back to the year 2000, and you can see the fluctuations. You can see we had the crazy crashes in 2008. Because there were deals that were just falling apart left, right, and center because of a lending crisis. It was because too many people were given access to loans who would never, ever be able to afford to pay them. So, that's why things were falling apart, and then all the confidence in the market went away. So if we go down here, this is July of 2022, you can see that while the demand was starting to come down, because we were still, July is really when things started, the feds were really starting to ramp up and saying, hey, you know what, this is out of control. We've got to do something to control this, the housing market. So then those closed sales started slowing down, and because we had a lack of inventory on the market. So Orange County closed sales year over year. This is also a great graph. We don't have all the final numbers for December, but it just shows you here is orange is our 2022. And you can see how in the beginning of the year, because we had those low interest rates, we had a lot more closed sales, and you can compare that to 2021 and our 2020 sales. And then, of course, the purple is sort of what we're returning to, which is our pre-pandemic. But you can see that our sales tapered off, our closed sales started tapering off as soon as the Fed started implementing their Fed rate increases, which then affects the 10-year Treasury, which then affects the mortgage rates that we see. So it is going to be interesting to see how this comes up again as soon as those interest rates go down. But you know what? Closed sales can only happen if there's inventory on the market for those buyers to actually purchase. And hopefully when we get a little more acceptable or more comfortable interest rates, I should say, then hopefully more sellers will be ready to make the moves that they're contemplating. They just are not willing to take on at this point in time. So their closed sales breakdown. This is the other thing that we keep hearing from buyers. Oh, the market's going to crash. It's going to be like 2008. There's going to be all these bargains on the market. Okay, reality check buyers. No, just not going to happen, because most of the properties that have been sold there's equity in them. So even with interest rates going up, most of those sellers have a lower rate and they have built-in equity. And the job market is strong. So people aren't defaulting on their loans sufficiently for that to become a reality. So this green line over here shows the equity sales. So by far, it's, in the high 90s of homes that are being sold and there's equity in the homes. It is not because there is a foreclosure or a short sale. I mean, we are like barely negligible sort of numbers right over here in 2022. So buyers, unfortunately, we are not going to see a repeat of 2008. There are, I've done presentations on this before, and we've got articles in our newsletter that we have sent out, and we send that newsletter out every Wednesday with information for you to help you understand what's going on in the real estate market. And no, homeowners have too much equity in their homes. The demand is too great and the inventory is too low. It's that perfect storm of it's not going to happen. And of course, the lending guidelines have changed significantly since 2008. We do not have that same financial lending environment to create what we saw in 2008. So these are good old-fashioned sales, and that is the way that we prefer it for a more stable housing market. Just to re-emphasize that as well, I kind of cut and pasted a little bit out of the report. And if you would like to see the full report, you can definitely reach out to me. I have a black and white copy right in front of me here. It's that same beautiful, cute sloth on the front. And, just reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to send you that full report. But I wanted to show you, and this is Stephen Thomas, who pulls this amazing data for us, and I use his reports a lot to help explain what's going on in the market. So this one is taking a breakdown. He's got it by city, but rather than have 2 pages of cities to show you, I thought I would use the breakdown of the whole of Orange County broken down by price points. And these are how many units are being sold in the various price points, the median sales price, the median list price. And what I think is really important for us to take note of is the sales to list price ratio. So basically, when sellers are putting their homes on the market, what are they ending up selling for? Because remember, when interest rates were super low, that's when we saw the 103, 105% of list price because of the multiple offers. Now we're getting a little closer to the more realistic of when a property has been priced correctly in today's market for its current condition and its location, you are going to get the property sold and it's going to sell for close to or at that list price. And that is what we're seeing. So whether we're talking about the $500,000 property, which I know is hard to find, or we're even going up into those luxury homes, the sales to list price is sitting in the 90s. And for the most part, until you get to the much higher end luxury properties, they are selling really close to 100% of list price. So sellers, the lessons here, and actually I'm going to go on to the next page, because this is what Stephen Thomas put in his report, and I couldn't say it any better. So to sellers, if you are holding out for the spring market in anticipation of a quick sale and a price higher than the last comparable sale, that simply will not happen. Instead, sellers will be looking at a much more sluggish market with muted demand and buyers taking their time to purchase. Proper pricing is crucial to find success. So I'm going to share a story about that. I've just recently represented a buyer. The buyers ended up, this is a property which is in the luxury range, and I'm going to keep a lot of the details confidential as I'm required to, but just to sort of illustrate a story. Property was on the market, it was overpriced. Only when it came down into where my buyers were 100% comfortable being, they did not get any offers on their property. However, we ended up in a multiple offer situation in December. So it does still happen when the property is priced correctly for its location and its condition. And then we had a normal 30-day escrow with everything that goes with us. The buyers could keep their contingencies, which is much better because you know that buyers really need that. They're going to be more willing to enter into a market where they're not being expected to waive the appraisal contingency, waive the inspection contingency. And in some cases, which I think is insane, it still just doesn't, make logical sense, waive a loan contingency when there's a loan involved. And I know lenders out there, I know that it's possible, but this is a much better environment. There were still negotiations around repair requests. The buyers didn't get away with everything. The seller conceded a little bit. So there was give and take. This is what a balanced market should be like. This is a healthier market. So sellers, pay heed to what is being stated here. This is honestly what every single real estate expert that I speak to, and I speak to my colleagues a lot, this is what we're all experiencing, and this is what we're anticipating. And then to buyers, while home values may be falling right now, lowball offers are a waste of everybody's time, including your own. There are no bargains out there. I wish it was a different story. It is not, based on low inventory, supply and demand. It's just that, it's how we run our world. So don't waste your time offering a lowball offer. It's not going to, sellers don't need to do that. Distressed sellers, foreclosures, and short sales are not components of today's market, and definitely not in our area. There is a real lack of panic selling. Nobody needs to panic and sell their home, because most homeowners, because of the crazy appreciation we've seen over the last couple of years, have a lot of equity in their homes. So they don't need to do that. They can sell and still end up with a positive picture at the end of the day. Yeah, no major deals as they were during the Great Recession. So that is the reality. We're returning more to a normal-ish market, a little more time, a little more patience on both sides. And you are still going to be able to achieve your real estate goals. So let's have a look very quickly at some of our local cities, see what's going on here. So Dana Point, and I pulled this from this morning, we have a median list price of 2.9 million, and our new properties are coming on just a little less than that. Our median days on market is 84, so we're right at that sort of Orange County median. For those price decreases, we're still seeing. So any property that is still on the market and has not sold in a couple of weeks, it's because the buyers have rejected your price. So take that to heart and do what you need to do to get your property sold. It's not going to change. And then our inventory has come up ever so slightly. And we're now sitting at 36 properties for the whole of Dana Point. So slight seller's advantage. Moving on to Laguna Beach, median list price 3.9 million. Definitely that higher end where days on market is increasing. New properties coming on the market 1.8. Median days on market 119. Again, higher price point, smaller buyer pool is going to take longer to sell. We're still seeing, because of those higher priced properties with the lower demand, that we're seeing more price decreases or price reductions, and the inventory is still dropping because, again, the properties that are there are being rejected, and so sellers are reluctant to come on the market because they think they can't sell. However, we can tell that properties are still selling when they are priced correctly for condition, location in that particular market. And despite that, it's still a slight seller's advantage. San Clemente, our median list price 1.9, median price of new listings 1.847, run about there. Median days on market 70, so that is a faster market for sure. We are still seeing properties being rejected by buyers, and the sellers are doing the right thing and doing those price reductions, and our inventory is starting to level off and is slowly starting to think about coming up, and we're sitting at 66 properties on the market. In San Clemente, still a slight seller's market. San Juan Capistrano, median list price 1.9, and our new listings are coming on just a little below that. Median days on market 42. San Juan Capistrano remains our strongest seller market area in the 4 cities that we cover during our reports here. Price decrease, we are seeing some of those languishing properties because San Juan Capistrano has some really high priced luxury properties. Those are going to take longer, and those, if those sellers want to sell them, they are going to have to do those price reductions. Our inventory is sitting at 34. We're slowly coming up, but definitely not enough for the demand, and it's a strong seller's market. Again, we've got a good range of price points there. So as a reminder, the Welcome Home Global Group, we are real estate planners. Think of us as being like a financial planner. We really believe in being there for you throughout your life and your journey with real estate. And our goal is to help Southern California families build and transfer wealth through real estate, help you understand some of the tax implications and some other things. So some of the tools that we offer to help you make sound decisions are listed here, and if there's anything that we can help you with, we would be honored to be of assistance. And there's our contact info. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, I still see sunshine outside, couple of gray clouds, but hopefully the rain is a little behind us and we all can start drying out and enjoying the fact that we love living in Southern California. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.